taking you through tonight's featured performance, June 16th, 1985, from the Greek Theater, campus of UC Berkeley. One of probably the best places to see the Grateful Dead. It's a very, very small venue. I mentioned this back in April. When you go there, you're well, I was taken aback, not in a positive sense. I was really impressed by how intimate the setting is. I mean, it's just gorgeous with the eucalyptus trees all around. I mean, it's just if you have ever been to California, you know what I'm talking about with it. The scent of the eucalyptus, the eucalypti, I suppose. And the campus of Berkeley, UC Berkeley, has the most, apparently, in the United States in terms of those trees. Anyway, it's a beautiful setting, an intimate setting, an amazing place to see a Dead show.
All right. Sunday night, and that was me on the Dead Zone 2 years ago, recorded. And so I'm getting right to it. This is the meditation from this day, the 8th of June, originally written 10 years ago, and it is the last meditation of the material that would make up chapter 7, the saying of the sage. So let's get right into it. To free oneself for a binding directedness is to practice meditative thinking, to take up the rigorous exercise of non-action, of willing non-willing. If learning is purposeful wandering with others through the open region, then the preparation for this guiding of this learning, the sage's prep time, is devoted to the learning of learning. Sorry, I had to change the input levels. In order for the sage to be a teacher, to let nothing else but learning be learned, she must always be already most open for learning. Meditative thinking is the preparatory work of the sage, identified by Lao Tzu in the paragraphs immediately preceding his comment, ascribing the mindfulness of the people to the mindfulness of the sage. He writes, "He who devotes himself to learning seeks from day to day to increase his knowledge. He who devotes himself to the Tao seeks from day to day to diminish his doing. He diminishes it and again diminishes it till he arrives at doing nothing on purpose. Having arrived at this point of non-action, there is nothing which he does not do." Lao Tzu, from the Tao Te Ching. We read Lao Tzu as showing the philosopher's meditative practice as the learning directed by being's processual unfolding. The one who devotes himself to learning, the lover of learning, devotes himself to the Tao, heeds the appeal of language. To heed the appeal of language, to wait upon the silent call of the ineffable, requires that one has submitted oneself to painstaking listening. The increase in knowledge is measured by the degree of openness attained by the learner. She who devotes herself to learning seeks to increase her openness. To increase one's openness, however, one must practice becoming opened, emptying oneself. This is the essence of meditation, to practice and prepare for meditative thinking, for the comportment of learning. As we have said, meditative thinking is the conditioning exercise that prepares one to be ready and open for the unforeseen by releasing one into the freedom of poetic dwelling. Meditation is the practice of releasement, the practice of becoming opened. This is precisely why learning, identified with the production of mindfulness, the manifestation of conscientización, is said to be the practice of freedom. The one who practices meditation is capable of seeking the unforeseen, of wandering through the open region, the enchanted and mysterious realm of possibility. And as we have also said, the practice of meditation as releasement, as willing, non-willing, is the ongoing renunciation of the juridical voice. With Lao Tzu, we identify renunciation as the diminishment of doing. Meditation is the act of diminishing that is akin to the crossing or leap that follows upon the estrangement of the self-certain subject. What diminishes is precisely the certainty of the subject, the one who stands above and beyond. The reifying gaze of the subject diminishes. His capacity to calculate his moves and bear down upon the world diminishes. In diminishing this self-certain subject, it gives away to the questioning, bearing being, who is intersubjectively enjoined with others in the mutual identifying process of poetic dialogue, of making meaning together. But this meaning-making, as we have seen, appears useless, for it produces no commodity, unless the ongoing creation of peace and freedom is understood as a commodity to be traded. No, the outcome of learning, as Lao Tzu has indicated, does not produce anything. On the contrary, as we have said, learning is a hermeneutical destruction. It is a creative, collaborative practice that emerges from the diminishing of the solitary, self-contained ego, the busyness of the calculative thinker who seeks to have power over others. This creative, collaborative practice has been identified as the building of poetic dwelling. Thus, the building of the abode of freedom and peace follows the implosion of the habitual habitat of the ego, this lonely tower, panopticon, from which the shrill noise of the juridical voice is heard. And the one who is most capable of guiding and directing this project is the one who has devoted herself most intensely to learning, to the Tao, to the listening, to the gathering directive of being. The sage, the lover of learning, the one who practices meditative thinking from day to day and thereby seeks to diminish her doing. Thus, releasement, being carried into the open region of openness, is the essence of the relationship with being that we have called learning. Meditative thinking is the essence of the relationship with being. This is why Lao Tzu denotes this practice as the exemplar of the one who is devoted to the Tao. To wandering along the way. To be authentically situated in this relationship is to practice the freedom of attending to and letting be. This is captured by the commentator Hun, who turns to the early Buddhist master Kumarajiva for insight into the meaning of diminishment. Quoting Kumarajiva, who arrived at the understanding of meditation through Lao Tzu and the Taoist tradition, Hung writes about the one who diminishes his doing and thereby renounces the juridical voice, the calculative, smug ego. Quote, he then puts away all that is fine about him. He does so till he has forgotten all that was good in it. But the bad was wrong and the good is right. Having diminished the wrong and also diminished the right, the process is carried on until both are forgotten. Passion and desires are both cut off, and his virtue and the Tao are in such a union that he does nothing. But though he does nothing, he allows all things to be done to do their own doing, and all things are done. Unquote. Thus, the devotion to diminishing one's doing identifies the letting go that marks the heeding of being's call. To heed this call is to practice meditative thinking, to free oneself for a binding directedness that enjoins one in cultivating the open region of peace and freedom. Non-action that allows all things to do their own thing, and all things are done. This is the freedom that is at the heart of learning. And that's how it ends this day, June 8th. And this is the sage situation. Harley Davidsons, children and parents laughing, lawnmowers, letting it be. Just staying within the space of letting things be. It's the phenomenological attitude. In a very real sense. I was going to say some simplistic sense, but in a very real sense. So that's how I'm going to end it. And going to make some commentary on my blog, and let's see if we can get some dead topics. Okay.